Hello, good evening. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Can you hear me?
وعليكم السلام. واضح يا دكتورة.
وعليكم السلام. إيه.
Very good. Welcome back to TM105 M105 course, which is beginning of Java. You didn't know the time of your quiz. They didn't send you the time of the quiz yet, ولا they send you?
No, not yet.
Not yet, صح? I thought I'm missing some information. I just wanted to check. Very good. So until they announce the time of your online quiz, have you tried to do the activities on the first meeting, which is a simple welcome to Java Word program? Have you tried to do this, the online code?
Yes, doctor.
Did you find any difficulties regard coding in Java as a first program, or it was easy job?
It's easy.
It was easy.
Very good. So I want to know if you have any problem with the first program in Java. Anyone having a problem? So we can check the problem before we move in. Okay.
Doctor, could you please check the chat? There's people talking.
Okay, let me check the chat. Ayat, let me start from the beginning here. I couldn't understand. You couldn't understand the code, yeah, Ayat? Well, you couldn't understand what you should do. As a beginning, we said we need a program to write the code. So we used NetBeans because it's easy to know what is the keyword. It's easy to formalize the functions there, and it will give you hint which parameters it's needed to be here. فإحنا راح نحتاج برنامج عشان نكتب فيه الجافا، فقلنا بنستخدم الNetBeans. Some students want to use another program, Eclipse, the online editor. It's okay. Any one of them, it's okay. ما هو مشروط الNetBeans. أي واحد من هذه الأشياء اللي أنت تفضلها عشان تكتب فيها الجافا بروجرام تطلع لك output، توريك وين الايرور، بتسهل عليك المهمه اللي انت المفروض تسويها. It's fine for you. تبغى النوت باد، تفضل النوت باد، ما تبغى واحد من هذه البرامج، it's up to you. اوكي، فاحنا كل اللي سويناه رحنا على الNetBeans المره الماضيه وشرحنا كيف بنثبت الNetBeans. ما كان صعب، وحتى one of the doctors he already gave instruction. He gave a class regard how to install NetBeans وال GDK في السيستم. فاحنا اول شيء اذا تبغى الجهاز ما فيه جافا، فانت راح تثبتي الجافا اول وبعدين تثبتي الNetBeans، واثنينهم بتنزليهم من الانترنت، وممكن ترجعي الى الريكوردد سيشن الماضيه فيها البارت هذا كيف احنا بنثبت حقة العملي. روحي للكلاس حق العملي بتشوفي فيها كيف تثبتي الاثنين وتبدي الشغل في البرنامج. فأول شيء you will start a new project. بعد البروجكت you will start a new file داخل البروجكت. فأنت لما تسوي بروجكت بيكون فولدر فاضي، احنا سميناه هنا مثلا my first Java، وفي عندنا hello، عندي هنا 2 project، وداخلهم بتلاقي الفايلز حق الابلكيشن نفسها. فهنا مثلا my company hello، هذا هنا لما اضغط عليه دبل كليك نشوف الجافا فايلز. يمكن مو هذا حقي، هذا هنا hello world جافا. فهنا بتكتبي طبعا الكلاس. لما تسوي نيو فايل ونيو فايل بتختاري في الجافا جافا كلاس، او في عندك ممكن تحطيه على طول جافا مين كلاس، قلنا علشان يحط لك المين فانكشن فيها. فبالتالي بتكتبي الكود حقك داخل الجافا مين كلاس system.out.println. هذه هي السنتنس اللي بتطبع. اوكي، بس تخلصي الكود. فهذا عندي اسم الكلاس حقي، وهذا هنا المين فانكشن اللي بيبدأ تنفيذ الابليكيشن منها. وفقط بتضغطي على الرن وبتختاري الفايل اللي فيه المين فانكشن، وبيسوي لك كومبايلر الى الكود. اذا عندك اي ايرور او شيء بيطبعها لك وبيوريك الاوتبوت. فهذه هنا عباره عن الاوتبوت. هذا بس اللي سويناه المره الماضيه. ف I told the students as a beginning, all of you have to do this simple program في الجافا. إذا كانت بدايتنا صح، عرفتي إيش المشاكل اللي ممكن تواجهها، فالباقي إن شاء الله بيكون أسهل في إن أنت تصلحيها، أو إن يعني make up the errors اللي you might face it. sorry آيات. آيات أشرف. Really for me the library download, it's called I guess it won't appears for me the library download, it's called I guess. ما فهمت يا رغد. I didn't understand you. Okay, so Ayat, I will explain again. If you need any help regarding how to install NetBeans or the GDK, refer to our practical session video. I already sent the link, and it will help you to install the GDK and also the NetBeans in your system. It's not mandatory to use NetBeans. It's up to you to use any API that you feel it's easy to use by you. If you prefer to use Notepad, if you prefer to use Eclipse, if you prefer to use NetBeans, it's up to you. So basically, if you use NetBeans, you will need to start a new project as a beginning. The projects will be listed here. Here I have two projects. I have my first Java and have Hello project. Inside it, you will find the related files here. So after you create the folder of the project, you will create a new file inside it. So if it's your first file in the project, I recommend you to choose Java main classes, as it will create for you the main function or method directly in there. Then you will start typing the code inside the main function here, because the application will look for the main method to start executing the application from there. So here, my application will only print a message on the screen. Here I wanted to print my name. So this is the sentence or the command to print on screen, system.out.println. Then you will open the parentheses for printing the message. What we practiced in the first session is we practiced the open and the close curly bracket for the classes and also for the methods. So for any class, for any open one, you have to close the parentheses. This is the common mistakes, the common errors, why we have mistakes here. So if you delete this curly parentheses, you will get an error here. To know the error, you have just to point there, and it will tell you reached end of file while parsing. If you find this error, this means you already have a missed curly bracket somewhere. You have to check. You have this one open, and this is the close for the class, and this is the open for the main method. Then also you have to put the closing curly bracket for the main method. Also, one of the common errors is the parentheses for the string message. This is the style of error messaging in NetBeans. So here it will tell you not a statement, semicolon expected. Here, because you already miss a parenthesis, so you have to put it there. And we said any command in Java, it has to be ended with the semicolon. So if you forget to put it, it will give you an error indicator. Then you have to check the line. Okay. So I asked the students all to do this as a homework. Okay. And if you have a problem, then I explain it now one more time. So I want you, if you have a problem in the last 2 weeks, to redo it. Don't carry on the exercise until you did this first simple Java program correctly. If you installed NetBeans, then you can start immediately, okay, in programming. Very good, very good. So this is our first meeting. We have a very beginning regard the Java. What difference between println and print? Saud, we will see today, inshallah, in today's session, what's the difference between them. It's very easy. Println will print on a new line, while print will carry on the previous line. That's the simplest explanation. But in today's class, inshallah, you will see what's the difference in more, you will see an example. Okay. For those who just attend our class, in the previous meeting, we look through the communication inside the computer between the different parts of the computer, which is the memory, the storage memory, the CPU, between the communication device, like the modem, between the input and output device. We explained each part briefly, what its job, why it should be there inside the program. Then we define between the two types of programs, the software and the application programs. Then also we focused more in the programming language, and we said there are 3 levels of programming language in the computer. Machine language, which is understandable by the computer only. It includes 0 and 1 binary code. Then the highest level than machine language is the assembly language. It's a medium language that translates the code to machine language that is understandable by the computer. But in assembly language, we use very simple words like add, subdivide, divide, and we use registers name rather than variable name. Like here, we could say add F3 and register 1 R2 and R4. So it's like add the value stored inside register 1, register 2 inside R3. Then it will be transferred the code to machine code. And the programming language, which is the high-level language, which is most understandable by human mind, because it uses more symbols and words that can be understood easily by a human, like area equal 5 multiply 5 multiply 3.14, which is easier than writing binary code or assembly code. So what's happening here? The high-level programming language will be transferred to assembly language. The assembly language will be transferred to machine language. Then it will be executed by the computer. We made some comparison regarding the most common programming language available. And we compare between interpreter and compiler. And I want just to mention that this is a common question to have it inside any computer course. What's the difference between interpreter and compiler? So you have to have the concept of the difference between them. Compiler will take the high programming language, check for errors, translate it to machine language, then it will be executed all at once, where interpreter will take sentence by sentence of the code, check for errors, translate it to machine language, executed, then move into the next sentence or instruction. So you have to understand what's the difference between interpreter and compiler, while both of them do the same things. They both interpret the code. but the way of interpreting and compiling is different. Then we focused on why we could choose Java. It's like, what is the advantages of using Java? Then we look on the characteristics of Java. We like Java because it's easy. It's provide features like object-oriented. It can be work on multiple platforms, on phones, on laptops, on tablets. Then we look on the various edition of the GDK, which is Java Development Kit, the tools that we needed to develop a Java program. And we said there are different versions of the Java. There is Java Standard, the one we can use it for small applications, Enterprise Edition for big applications, Micro Editions for small handheld like mobile phones or tablets. Then we look on the Java and the typical Java development environment. What can we use? We need some application or the IDE or some editor to write the Java code there. Then we need to compile it. Then a class file will be created. Then the class file will be executed. We say there are a lot of applications like NetBeans or Eclipse based on what you want to do. Then we look on our simple application, which was the welcome, and we look through the more common mistakes where you have to do your work. This is a quick revision. Okay. So now we will start our second meeting, and we will speak about introduction to computer programming. In this chapter, we will look more in different variables, the constant in Java program, and different methods of printing the classes. So in the last chapter, you learn how to create, compile, and run Java program. Starting from today, you will learn how to solve a practical problem programmatically, like what is the best variable name you can choose, how you could start the definition of your variables. Through these problems, you will learn Java primitive data type and related subjects like variables, constant, the data types available, the operators, expressions. I would like to call it the most common data types that you might need it to create a Java program. So the objectives of today's chapter is to write a program to perform simple computation, to obtain input from the console using the scanner class, how you would ask an input from the user. فإذا كنت تبغى اليوزر يدخل input, you need to use the scanner class. To use identifiers to name variables, constant, methods, and the class. هنا حق كيف أعطيهم names. الفاريبل كيف أعرفها، الكونستنت، الفاريبل اللي هي المتغيرات، الكونستنت اللي هي الثوابت، الميثودز اللي هي الفانكشنز حقتنا اللي بتنفذ لنا الأشياء، والكلاسز اللي هي creating الكلاسز اللي فيها البارامترز كاملة حقت الكلاس. To name classes, methods, variables, and constant by following their naming conventions. There are some rules to name your class, the methods, the variables inside your class, and to be programmer, good programmers, you have to follow these guidance. To explore Java numeric primitive data type, we have a lot of data types inside Java. Some of them related to numbers value. We have the byte, the short, integer, long, float, and double. We will see what's the difference between them and how you could choose the best data type as a numeric value. To perform operations using operators, as we have numbers, we need to do some operations on numbers like sum, subtract, multiply, divide, and the remaining. فهنا العمليات اللي بنسويها على الأعداد، وكذلك عندنا الأنواع حقة القيم العددية، في عندنا بايت، شورت، انتجر، بنشوف ايش الفرق ما بينها، وكذلك هل ممكن يتحول عندي نوع إلى الثاني أو لا، فحسب شو اللي تحتاج انك تخزن فيه تختار النوع المناسب. To write and evaluate numeric expression, to cast the value of one type to another type. Casting means changing the type of a value to another one. This is called casting. There is some rules for casting because smaller value can be transferred to a higher value, but the opposite might be not correct. And also, we will learn how to read a variable value from the keyboard. And I said we will use a scanner input class, and we will see how we can use it. Variables اللي هي المتغيرات. إذا نحتاج نعرف variables قيمتها بتتغير خلال البرنامج. We have integers. Integers represent numbers, whole number like 7, 0, minus 22. عدد صحيح من غير كسور، من غير يعني زي 7 زي 0 زي الماينس 22 عدد صحيح. Programs remember numbers and other data in the computer's memory by using variables. So if you want to use the value of a variable, you will call it by the name of the variables. The value will be stored inside the location memory. So it's basically a memory, and the address in the memory, you will name it with a variable name. You can get the value of that location by calling the name of the variables. فعندي الميموري كلها عناوين، فإذا بغيت ترجع لفاليو معينة في هذا الميموري بتخزن هذا المكان الادرس باسم معين اللي هو اسم الفاريبل. وقت ما تحتاج الفاليو بتنادي على الفاريبل نيم. What is a variable? Variable, it's a location inside the memory of the computer where a value can be stored. It must be declared with a name and the type. So for any variable, two things you have to define it. The name of the variable, what is the type of the variable. Type will determine the value inside this variable. It is a number, or is it a string, or it's a character. So it will determine what is the value allowed to be stored in that location. The name can be any valid identifier. The type specify what kind of information is stored at that location of memory. فالاسم عشان ارجع له للميموري، التايب بيحدد لي نوع المعلومات اللي ممكن تتخزن في هذا المكان من الميموري. هل هو رقم؟ هل هو تاريخ؟ هل هو boolean value؟ So here we have a program to add two integers. If you want to add two integers, you need to define the two numbers that will hold the value to be added, and here we define it as integer number 1, integer number 2. So in Java, you will define the type before the name. Int is the first, it will be an integer value. The name is number 1. هنا اسم الvariable, and this is the data type of the variable. Another number is called integer. Its type integer and its name is number 2. فهنا الاسم حقها number 2. نوعهم اثنينهم integer. Also, we need another variable to store a sum. It will be from the same data types of the two numbers. So the data type here, it will be integer, and the variable name will be sum. So the number 1 is the first number to add, number 2 is the second number to add, sum is the summation of the number 2 and number 2. And we will call this process here a declaration. So a declaration is defining what is the variable in your program and what is the data type of this variable, okay? The second operation is called initialization. Initialization means giving an initial value to your variable. بتعطي قيم ابتدائية للمتغيرات حقك. So number 1 will hold the value 45 and number 2 will hold the value 72. Here, you can change the values during the code. You can delete 45 and type 20. You can delete 72 and type any other value. It's up to you as a programmer. But here you have always to log into the code of the program to change the value of number 1 and number 2. There is another way to ask the user to put the values of number 1 and number 2. But in this way, زي ما نشوف الآن, no, it is hard coded. The value is hard coded. خلاص مدخلة زي ما هي في السيستم. Then this is the operation. Let sum equal the value of number 1 and number 2. So here the computer will look the memory location number 1. What's stored inside number 1? 45. So it will have the value here 45. Plus, what is the value stored in number 2? Oh, it's 72. So it will get the value 70 stored inside number 2 memory location and will add them together. The output of the result of the sum will be stored in the sum variable. Then system.out.println sum is plus sum display sum. Here, what's inside the quotations here will be a message printed on the screen. So we will have on the screen sum is. Plus here, it will be a concatenation. We join two strings together. نجمع ما بين مسجتين. اللي داخل الكوتيشن هذه بتطبع كمسج على الشاشة، والزائد هذه بتجمع لي المسج هذه السترنج مع مسج ثانية. هنا حطينا السم variable. السم variable is holding an integer value. فيها integer value. صح ولا لا؟ مو أنا جامعة two numbers، فالسم هنا فيها رقم ما هو string. لكن لما أنت تحطيها في الرسالة هنا it will convert الانتجر value to a hard coded string. بحوله لي إلى string وبحطها لي تابع المسج. فالoutput it will be sum is 117. This is the output. Okay. If let me see. I will take here my code, go back to my NetBeans, delete my main method. Okay. So if we want to write this program in NetBeans, we define, don't forget the indentation. Okay. Indentation makes your program easy to be read, more programmatic stylish. يعني style programming إنه يكون في indentation. Indentation, yes.
Be careful, your laptop might need charging.
Yeah. Okay, I have my charger. Thank you for informing me.
You're welcome.
All right. So here you have to follow the programming techniques, which is you always have to have some indentation. Bear in mind the follow-up. So here we define the variables, 3 integers value, number 1, number 2, and the sum. Then we will have the programming code. Let number 1 equal 45, let number 2 equal 72. Then this is the operations. We said this is the comment. Comment give more explanation regarding what are you going to do. Here is the sum. Let sum, the third variable, equal number 1 plus number 2, then print me the output on the screen. You can run the code. Then as the output we have it here, sum is 117.
Miss, can I say
All right.
something?
Yes.
I've tried right now. I wrote integer number 1 equal 10, integer number 2 equal 20, integer sum equal number 1 plus number 2, and then system.out.println sum is like this, and then it worked. Is it important to write like this way, or because I wrote it in easy way for only 4 lines?
No. You can type all the codes if you want in one message. So you type the instruction of the declaration together with the instruction of adding the 2 numbers, right? So here you put
equal,
number 1
plus
number 2. And you said here equal 45.
Yeah.
And you said here equal 72. It's okay. And you delete all this. You don't need the same things. It's basically a preference for the programmer, how he wants to define his variables, where he wants to declare it. So you give the initial value directly to the variables. It's up to you. Both of them is correct.
So it's okay if I use this way, right?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay.
It's okay. This one, for the beginner programmers, it's easier for them to follow up. We need to define the variables, then we need to initialize them, then we need to do the instruction in the program, what we wanted to do. If you think you can manage it later as advanced programmer, yes, it's fine. Up to you. So here we have steps to define or to write our code in Java. First, we need to give a declaration to the variables. And here in defining and declaring our variables, we define the data type of the variable, then we define its name. It specifies a name, number 1, and a type integer of a variable that is used in this program. Several variables of the same type may be declared in one declaration with the variable names. So also we can define it in this way. Give typing only the data type once, integer, then we define the variable name on the same line. Define number 1, number 2, and sum of integer data types. So we can also type it in this way. Rather than defining 3 variables, we can also define it in this way. Integer number 1, number 2, and sum. We divide between the variables with a simple comma. Then we give the initializing step. Number 1 equal 45, number 2 equal 75, sum equal number 1 plus number 2. So you can divide it based on how you want it to be. Assignment statement, if you want to assign a value to a specific variable, you can use the equal sign. So number 1 here, we will call it a variable. The 45 here is actually an expression or a literal. We give a specific value to this variable, which is equal to 45. We assign the value by using the equal sign, assignment operator. So equal sign, we will call it in Java code assignment operator, because we assign the value on the right-hand side to the variable name located on the left-hand side. So the assignment operator, the equal sign, indicates that the integer literal 45 to the right will be assigned to store in the memory location of variable number 1 to the left. القيمة اللي على اليمين راح تسند إلى المتغير اللي على اليسار. كيف نسند القيم؟ باستخدام علامة اليساوي. هذه معناها أن هذا الفاريبل بيساوي هذه القيمة. نسمي ال 45 literal integer literal لأنه خلاص هي قيمة إحنا ثابتة كانتجر دخلناها إلى هذا المتغير. When a value assigned to a variable for the first time, we say that the variable has been initialized. So the first value of a variable, we call it initializing the variable. Prepared for use in the program. It's ready. If you need to use a variable, you have to give it an initial value. لازم يكون في عندك قيمة ابتدائية يبتدي منها. إن شاء الله لو 0. إن شاء الله لو space للstring. بس never be empty. You can't use a variable without initializing its value. It will give you an error. It is not allowed to use a local variable before initializing it. So you have to initialize the variable. How we define a variable? Variable, every variable has a name, a type, and size. A variable, it measures 3 things. اسم.
ايش يعني local variable؟
local variable يعني داخل البرنامج، انت قاعد تستخدميه حدود هذا البرنامج. يعني انا الان عندي نمبر 1 ونمبر 2 معرفه في البرنامج حقي هذا. لو اللي اسمه فيرست جافا لو رحت الى الهلو ما اقدر استخدمه فيه، وخلاص local variable داخل الفيرست جافا بروجرام. local محلي معناته.
ايه فهمت اوكي.
So for every variable it has a name, a type and size and a value. لها اسم، نوع، حجم و value. Name declared by the user, type declared by the user, size already determined by the system, the value it can be determined by the user or the programmer. So when a new value is placed into variable, like here, number 1 equal 45, number 2 equal 72, sum equal 117, we give the name. A type we said it's integer. A size في عندي limit, there is a limit to values allowed to be stored in this variable. في عندي قيم مسموحة بحجم معين ممكن انها تتخزن في هذه الفاريبل. Then we have the operator. So في عندنا الفاليوز حقت النمبرز. We have البلس operators العوامل. operators يعني عوامل operations اللي هي علامات العمليات اللي أنا أقدر أسويها. So far we already have seen the equal sign, which is the assignment operator. Now you will see the plus sign operator. What can we do with it? If we have the operator plus, it's called the additional operator. We can use it if we have 2 numbers, we want to add their values together, like number 1 plus number 2. The result of adding these 2 numbers will be stored in sum. But also, we have seen it in the string, the message printed on the screen. So you can use it also to add 2 strings together. And this way, we will call number 1 and number 2 the operands, العوامل. The operator, اللي هو العامل, plus is called a binary operator. Binary operator because it's need 2 values to be added together because it operates on 2 operands. في عندي عامل وعندي عوامل. العامل هنا هي الزائد. العوامل هنا هي عبارة عن المتغيرات اللي أنا سميتها number 1 و number 2. وهذه عبارة عن assignment operator. The right side will be assigned to the left side. Okay. So the operator plus as a concatenation operator ممكن تستخدم also as a concatenation operator. We can use the plus sign as a concatenation operator as we seen in the string message. Here we can define a message sum is, which is hard-coded by the program, plus a value of a variable in the program, sum. Sum is a variable. The value there will be changed during the execution of the program, where this message will be always printed on the screen. And this way, the plus sign operator is a concatenation operator. If any one of the 2 operands is a string, the result will be a string. Sum here is a number, but sum is a string. The message will be a string as a whole. It will be a concatenation. The first operand concatenated with the second operand. It will be a full message, will be رسالة مطبوعة on the screen. Like here, welcome to plus Java concatenation. 2 strings together. Sum is plus sum. String plus number value. It will be a string message. Number value will be concatenated with the string and both of them will be a string. Sum plus is the result. It will be also number plus a string. It will be also a string printed on the screen, but the value of the sum variable will be transferred to a string first. Java is a strongly typed language, require all variable to have a type. لابد any variable you have it in your program, it has to have a type. The following table summarizes the 8 primitive types in Java. We have 8 types. The first one is number, and numbers itself divided to more than one type. Either it has a whole numbers without decimal point or real number. Real number divided to float or double. The difference between them is the size. A float allow you 4 bytes only. Example 17.345 F represent a shortcut for float. Treat this number as a float or as a double, which locate more spaces to store your number. 8 bytes. فالدبل تسمح لك ان انت تخزن عدد اكبر من الفلوت. هنا يسمح لك 8 بايتس في حين الفلوت 4 bytes. To distinguish between them, you will add F at the end of the float number, D for the double number. Example here 12452.212, more accurate. So here both of them allow you to type decimal or real number. The other whole numbers, including byte, short, integer, and long. Byte locate only 1 byte, which is equal to 8-bit. Short, 2 byte. Integer, 4 bytes. Long, 8 bytes. And this is the allowed value for each type of them. So if it's a byte, it's locate only 1 byte to it. The allowed value is from -1 to 8 to 1 to 7. If it's short, then it's allow you to store any values from -32768 to 32767. Sorry. If it's integer, then it's allow you only 4 bytes from any values in this range. And if it's long, it's allow 8 bytes for the value to be stored as long, and the values allowed from -2 power 63 to 2 power 63 minus 1. Another data type, not numbers, is the characters. If you need to define a character variable, you can define it as single character by the keyword char. It's mean character. It's locate 2 bytes only. To store any characters like A, 1, question mark. If you need to store a Boolean variable which holds the value either true or false, you can use it with the keyword Boolean. And it's specific to GVM on each platform. So we can have also Boolean data type which holds the value true or false. All primitive data type are written in small letters. So if you want to define a data type, always type it in small letters because it's a keywords. You can use them as a variable names. Characters are represented using Unicodes. This is if you want to define a character, it's defined with Unicode table. So they are stored in 16 bits. For example, if you type the value 4 as a character, stored in memory as 000, so it will need 16 bits in total to represent it. It will convert the value in the binary code to in 4 characters to binary code and store it in 16-bit. And this represents the value number 52 in the decimal table. So here 5 is 53, A is 65, A is 97, C is 99. فالكاركترز بيتم تمثيلها باستخدام الجداول في اليونيكود باستخدام 16 بت. يعني كل كاركتر في الكيبورد يقابلها قيمة عددية عشرية في جداول يونيكود. ال A مثلا بتمثل الفاليو 97، ال C بتمثل الفاليو اللي رقمها 99 من التيبل، ومقابلها طبعا التمثيل الباينري حقها. Characters could be non-printable ones such as tab, enter, etc. But there is also representing value for unique in the table of the Unicode. Primitive data type, how we could define it. Like we have seen in the example, if we have integer, we had always to start with the data type in a small letter, integer, integer, long, double. Then you have to follow it with a space and the variable name defined by the user. For example, here, I1, I2, long L, double D, float F, character C1. So here is the name defined by the programmer. And this is the keyword defining the data type of the variable. Then you have to follow it with the assignment operator, which is the equal sign, then the value itself. Here is integer I1 equal 35. This is integer literal. أعطيناها قيمة خلاص. You can also represent it with an expression, like here integer I2 equal 7 plus 2. It will execute the operation and assign the value to I2. Long L equal the value and you end it with prefixes L, long literal. Double D equal 35.4, which is a decimal, double literal. Float F 35.4 F, float literal. Define it with F at the end. Character C1, hold only one character. Character C2, space. Character C2, new line. Boolean B1, either true or false, without any quotations or anything, only a true. It's a Boolean literal. Boolean B2, you can also write it as an expression. Like here, is 10 less than or equal 7, it will execute this operation if it's equal to true or false and assign the value to be true. Characters are delimited enclosed using single quote, where strings are delimited using double quote. So if you're defining a character, always place a single quote. If it's a string, then you need to define two quote like this. Okay. Let us see this example. 5 plus 4 equal 9. This is actually will be treated as numbers because there is nothing surrounding the values. So it will be executed as numbers. هذه عبارة عن عملية رياضية طبيعية. 5 زائد 4 مجموعهم يساوي 9. This is a string because we already have double quotation here. So it will be treated if we place the sum operator here as contacting. So it will place 5, 4 inside them as a string. If it's a single quotation here, then it will be treated as characters. So it will locate for their values inside the Unicode table. 5 is in a place, I think 50 something, and 4 is located in somewhere. You can look on Google and type Unicode.
Miss, يعني هذه you have to memorize them?
لا, this is how to distinguish between the output among the same values. They look the same, but they are different. How they will be treated. We have here 5 plus 4 will be treated as numbers. So if we place plus sign between them, they will give you the result of adding two number values together. If they are a string, it's like
No,
A plus B.
أنا كان قصدي إني قاعدة أسأل عن اليونيكود آخر شيء عن الكاركترز يعني.
Yes.
كل يعني
لا,
each one
you
has
don't
a
need to
value.
remember the value, the number value. You mean the represented number value for 5 and plus 4?
Yes, that was our
No,
answer.
no need. No need. It's only to explain it.
Oh, okay.
So here, ASCII tables, for example, if we open one of these tables.
هو أنا سألتك لأني بحثت وطلعت لي هذه الصورة فخفت.
No. You don't need. هذه علشان ان الكاركترز عندنا يقابلها قيم، يعني كل كاركترز في الكيبورد بتتخزن باستخدام الاسكي كود، يصير لها بوزيشن 0 1 2 3 4 5. فمثلا عندنا واكبرها بس هذه شكلها صغيره. فعندنا هنا مثلا نمبر الفايف نفسها، الفايف من الكيبورد نفسها، الديجيتس نمبر 5 بيقابلها رقم اللي هي ما ادري وين راحت. end of text. هنا مثلا عندي لو ابغى اخزن 5 نفسها، هنا الخمسة يقابلها 53، فبياخذوا ال 53 بلس كانت 4 اللي هي 52، فبيطلع لي الناتج حقها هذول هنا. ف you don't need to memorize this value. It's only a way to store الكاركترز بشكل مرتب في table بس. understandable ولا ضيعتكم؟
والله ضيعتينا يا دكتورة.
يعني أنا جيت الظهر بكحلها وعميتها.
لا أنا
هذا
فهمت إن
هنا
each character يعني كل رقم بالطريقة اللي تعمل فيها يعني موجود بالحاسب
في
بصيغة
position
معينة أو له قيمة معينة.
ترتيب معين، له
إيه.
ترتيب معين. الترتيب المعين هذا مخزن في تيبل اللي هو بنسميه الاسكي تيبل. اوكي. ف لما احنا نطبع المسج من من الكيبورد حقنا وبنرسلها، لابد انه يتم ترجمتها في الجهاز اللي بيستلمها بنفس الترتيب. فكيف يعرف ان انت ضغط على الاي؟ مخزنينها كاسكي كود، يروح يشوف الرقم اللي هناك كم انطبع ويروح يجيب المقابل له. اوكي، ما عليكم. يعني هي اهم شيء هنا السترنج بنعرفها بفاصلتين، الكاركتر بفاصل واحده، فيجيب الخمسه هنا، الخمسه هنا يقابلها النمبر، هذه هنا الخمسه يقابلها 53 والاربعه 52، فلما جمعوهم بتصير 105. يعني بيجمع الريبريزنتنج بوزيشن حقها ككاركتر. هذا في الجافا. اوكي. all right. where are we? We are here. The output here will be different. So the output will be changed according what is the operands. ايش العوامل اللي قاعدة تنجمع؟ Is it a number? Is it a string? Is it a character? So if it's a number, it will be operations on number. If it's a string, it will be concatenation. 5 بعدين ال 4. If it's a character, it will take the value representing this character in the ASCII table and add it to the front value of 4 characters in the ASCII table and represent the output as character. Let us take a break. Okay, so it's already has been an hour. So take a break. Come back here by 15 past 5. All right, take a break. نرجع على 5:15 إن شاء الله. Welcome back. We will continue, inshallah, our meeting. The basic data types in Java program with variable names. Variables names is called the identifiers, اللي هي المعرفات. How we can't define identifiers or a variable name. Identifiers is actually sequence of characters consist of letters, digits, or underscores, or a dollar sign. Any combination of these allowed characters can be set as identifier. But also, identifier must always start with a letter or underscore or a dollar sign. It cannot start with a digit, so don't start it with a number. Identifier can be a reserved word. Examples of reserved word like int, boolean, which is the data type true, false, null. This cannot be a reserved, this cannot be used as identifier name as it's already have a meaning in the language. Identifier can be of any length, so no limit for the length of your identifier. هذه كيف ممكن نعرف المعرفات للفاريبلز. بنبدأها أول شيء هي عبارة عن مجموعة من الكاركترز ممكن تحتوي على أرقام، حروف، أندرسكور أو الدولار ساين. نبدأها دائما بحرف أو أندرسكور أو دولار ساين بس مو برقم. ما نقدر نستخدم الكيوردز اللي هي reserved words في الجافا كايدنتيفايرز لأن already في لها معنى آخر، وما نقدر نستخدم لها كلمات زي true, false أو null لأن already في لها كذلك معاني وممكن تكون من أي length. Naming conventions choose meaningful and descriptive names. Always try to choose a name for your variables that reflect what will be stored there. Variables and method names, how we give them a names. Guidance here. You have to choose and use the lowercase for your variables and for your methods names. Methods اللي هي الفانكشنز والvariables اللي هي المتغيرات. دائما إذا جيتوا تعطوها أسماء لازم تبدأوها بالlowercase اللي هي small letters. If the name consists of several words, concatenate all in one. Use lowercase for the first word and capitalize the first letter of each subsequent word. So the first word of your variable name, small. The second one started with capital letter and continue in small. So it will be easier for you to read it. You will look always for the capital letters as a new word in your identifier. The variables radius and area are the method compete area. So we have variables called radius and area, and the method name we could call it as compete area. So here we started with a small letter compete, but the second word is started with capital letter area all at once. يعني ما نفرق ما بينهم. We don't place a space between them. We type it as one word, but we distinguish the second word in our variable name or method name with capital letter. This is how to name variables and methods. For class names, always started with capital letter. So capitalize the first letter of each word in the name of your class. For example, the class name compete area. So here, if you see a capital letter, you will know it's a class name, compete area. Here is an example of a program that will compete an area of a circle. This program competes the area of the circle. Let's see the code. Here we have a class, compete area. As you notice here, they start the class name with a capital letter. It's two words, so the other word also a capital letter. Inside our main program, we have two variables. What is the data type of this variable? Anyone can answer me? What is the data type here?
Double.
Very good.
Or
And
command.
very good. And what is the variable name?
Radius and area.
Very good, very good. We have two variables, both of them of double data type. Then anyone can explain to me this sentence, radius equal 20. What is this one? What it will do here?
We'll compute the area.
Yes, this is the purpose of the program, but this sentence, radius equal 20, what I'm doing to the variable here? What am I giving it?
حطيت قيمة
Yes, very good. So
قيمة
you
نصف
give
القطر.
value.
very good. You give initial value to the variable which is called radius. فأعطينا نصف القطر قيمة ابتدائية اللي هي 20. والاريا هي اللي بغير قيمتها بناء على الراديوس value. Okay, so here my formula is area equal radius multiply 3.14, which is the formula for calculating the area in a circle. Radius already have a value. Area, its value will be changed based on the radius value. Then here, what will happen? Can anyone explain to me? System.out.println the area for the circle of radius plus radius plus as plus area. Anyone can explain to me what this will be explaining on the screen?
It will be the output for the result.
Very good. So here is a hard-coded message. هذه مسج بتنطبع على الشاشة زي ما هي. The area for the circle of radius. بعدين البلس sign here. What it will include?
Radius.
الراديوس اللي هي already فيها الفاليو 20 اللي دخلناها احنا من البرنامج. بعدين بلس as ايش راح تسوي؟
Output.
راح تطلع على الشاشة
زي ما هي as ايه.
Very good. بلس الاريا.
Yes.
اللي هي الفاليو اللي اتحسبت من الفورمولا. برافو. So if we see here, if we want to run our code, compile run example, this is our program. Then we will click on run. Here, your code contain, you need to write the code to replace full code or click answer or click the answer button. So here, I'll press on answer one. Here. So here is the output message. System.out.println the area for the circle of radius. نفسها, it will be the same message here. The value of radius is placed here plus radius. Radius already is a variable having the value 20. So its value will be placed here. بعدين as نزلت زي ما هي وبعدين الاريا variable القيمة اللي فيها اتحسبت من الراديوس من الفورمولا اللي فوق و its value already placed here. So we can as you see construct a message containing a specific string with variables already having a value or variables already not yet calculated its value. Okay.
بس عندي سؤال بس دقيقة.
Yes, تفضل.
يمديني أكتب مثلا the area for the circle of radius 20 أنا أكتب ال 20 is خلاص ما أحتاج أكتب radius مرة ثانية. ينفع كده ولا؟
ينفع بس إذا مثلا أنت كتبتها هنا the area for the circle of 20
أتوقع
radius 20 هنا وفرضا أنت غيرت القيمة للراديوس نفسها ونسيت بتكون دائما كأنها لل20 غير لما يعني تحتاج تغيرها في هذه الحالة مرتين يعني بتغيرها هنا وبتغيرها في المسج اللي بتنطبع على الشاشة غير لما مثلا تقول راديوس هنا 30 40 50 خلاص هي اوريدي كولد في الميثود حقت الطباعة هنا فبتنطبع وياها.
صح اللاين.
فهمت علي؟
ايه شكرا مس.
طيب دكتورة، بس العلامة اللي بعد الريدوس اللي هي الاريا الايكوال ريدوس، العلامة هذه الثنتين اللي زي الضربة وكذا.
زائد، هذه الزائد.
هذه زائد.
زائد ايه، هذه الزائد
لا
اللي بتسمع لي تو ستريتس مع بعض.
اقصد فوق دكتورة، الاريا الايكوال ريدوس، في العلامة
radius
بين الريدوس، ايه الكلمة الثانية، العلامة اللي بينهم هذه ايش تعني؟
ضرب. هذه
ضرب.
الضرب، لا، علامة الضرب في الجافا مو الاكس اللي احنا بنعرفها العادية، لا بتكون الستار. فهنا راديوس ضرب الراديوس ضرب 3.14159. فهذه الاوبريتور اللي هي علامة الضرب. معادلة المساحة في الدائرة نصف القطر تربيع ضرب 3.14 إذا كنتوا فاكرين. فنصف القطر تربيع هي عبارة عن مضروبة في نفسها radius multiply الراديوس في 3.14، فهي المعادلة فقط. اوكي، خلينا نرجع للاكزامبل حقنا. سوري، نرجع إلى السلايد. كيف أرجع للسلايد؟ خلينا نروح عليه من هنا. I think I've closed it. So here we have already seen an example to compute area of a circle. As we see, we need to define two variables, a radius and an area, which hold the area of a circle based on the radius variable. At the beginning, when we defined the variable, we said define a variable. Its name is radius. Its data type will be double. So we locate a space in the memory with the name radius, but having no value. Later, when we assign a radius, we said radius equal 20. This is what's happened actually. Sorry, before this, we define also an area variable, but from the double data type, but we didn't give it any value. So what's happening here, we allocate memory for the area. هذه second statement here. A third statement was assigning a radius equal 20, and this way we will give a value 20 to the memory location radius. فاحنا خزنا فيها قيمة 20 في الميموري location اللي مسمى بالراديوس. Then we have the statement compute area. This is where we give a value to area memory location. Radius multiply 3.14. So it will take the value which is in radius ل 20 يضربها في 20 ويضربها في 3.14. The output will be stored inside the area memory location. So here it will give it later the output of this statement. Compute area and assign it to variable area. Then we have the statement display result, which is in printing message on the screen system.out.println. It will give the output on the screen, the area for the circle of radius, print message to a console, which is the output. Okay. Now we will move into promotion. Promotion or implicit conversion. Here, if we define a data type of double, but we give it a value, a whole number, not a decimal. Double allow you to place decimal values to your number. يعني فيها comma. You will have a comma, then 0, or a half of a quarter. But what if you define a double data type and you give it a whole number like a 20? It will give you no error. It will count it as correct. This is called implicit conversion. The integer literal or expression could be promoted to double. يعني the values in integer can be converted to double. 20 can become 20.0. The primitive type could be arranged in the following order. So small can be converted to big numbers, but the opposite is not correct. What I mean, byte can be converted to short, character and short can be converted to integer, integer can be converted to long, long can be converted to float, float can be converted to double, but the opposite not necessarily can be correct. Boolean, there is no promotion، خلاص either true or false ما نقدر نغيرها. فهنا لما أعرف variable من نوع صغير زي الانتجر وبعدين أقوم أتعامل وياه كأنه long راح يعمل لي صح، ما راح يقول لي إنه في خطأ. لكن لما يكون عندي long number وأحاول أتعامل وياه كانتجر راح يطلع لي ممكن error. Such that it is allowed to assign a value of one type to a variable of any type to its right, but not the vice versa. To do that, a casting or explicit conversion needs to be used. يعني if you want to convert it to the opposite way from the big value to small value, you have casting, which is changing the data type. For example, here we define a variable d of double data type. We give it the value 72. It will give me no error, even if 72 is actually look like integer. There is no decimal places. But because double is bigger than integer, it will count it correct, no problem. Here we have integer called number 1. We give it the value 72.5, which is a decimal number. It's not a whole number. It will give me a compilation error. If you want to do this, if you want to deal with number 1 as decimal, then you have to do it as casting. لازم ان احنا نغير نوعها، نسوي لها casting، نرقيها. Integer number 2 equals 72.0. This will give also compilation error لأن فيها decimal numbers. Decimal numbers is not an integer allowed value. So here we have an operations. We can do it on numbers plus addition minus subtraction، وهذه المultiplication اللي هي الستارز، والسلاش هذه to represent الديفيجن اللي هي القسمة، والبرسنتج هذه called the remainder اللي هي الباقي، يعني باقي العمليات. So if you want to add two numbers, 34 plus 1 will give you the result 35 plus symbol plus operation. Subtraction, 34.0 minus 0.1, it will subtract it together, so it will give you 33.9. Multiplication, 300 multiply 30, it will give you 9,000. 1 divide 2 اللي هي القسمة، باقي القسمة 1 divide 2, it will give you half, 0.5. 20 reminder 3 باقي قسمة 20 على 3 it will give you 2 as 20 divided 3 it will give you 18. 90-20 is the remaining of the operation and it will be the result for the remainder اللي هي الباقي. باقي قسمة 20 على 3 فيها 18. 18 من 20 يعني باقي الاثنين وهذه راح تعطيني النتيجة. For the division, 5 divided 2, it will give you the integer 2. 5.0 divided 2, it will give you the double value 2.5. 5 remainder 2, it will give you 1, the remainder of the division. يعني هنا 5 قسمة 2 يعني فيها 2 فبيعطيك النتيجة 2 ما عليك من الباقي. 5 10 قسمة 2 بتعطيك بالكسور يعني 2.5 تعطينا قيمة دبل. باقي قسمة 5 على 2 هي 1 فبيطلع لي النتيجة 1. Number literals. What does it mean, number literals? A literal is a constant value that appears directly in the program. So literal is actually constant value. Fixed, constant mean fixed value. You give hard-coded value to the variables. أعطيت قيمة ثابتة للvariable. ما طلبت من اليوزر يدخلها كل مرة بتتغير. خلاص دخلت مرة وبتضل زي ما هي في الابليكيشن. For example, 34 1,000,005 are literal in the following statements, especially in the declaration. If you said integer I equal 34, خلاص, it will be always 34. Long x equal 1,000,000, it will be always 1,000,000. Double D equal 5, it will be always 5, which is hard-coded, constant, ثوابت ما بتتغير. An integer literal can be assigned to an integer variable as long as it can fit into the variable. A compilation error would occur if the literal were too large for the variables to hold. So when you will find an error, if the value was large for the variables to hold, not out of its allowed value. For example, if you have a statement, byte B equal 1,000, it will give you a compilation error because 1,000, it's need more than 1 byte to store it. So it will give you compilation error as there is no enough space to store this value. An integer literal is assumed to be of the integer type whose value is between -2 power 32 to 2 power 31 minus 1. So here be careful with the allowed value of the data types you define it for your variable. فننتبه هنا إلى القيمة إذا أعطيناها إلى الفاريبل حقنا، هل هي من ضمن المسموح في قيم هذا الفاريبل ولا لا. To denote an integer literal of the long type, append it with letter L or L. If you define long data type for your integer, append it with L, capital or small. And L capital is preferred as L small can be confused with number 1. For floating point literal, you actually use it with the decimal point numbers. By default, floating point literal treated as double type value. So if you type any decimal number, by default, it will be treated as double. Okay. For example, 5.0 will be considered as double value, not as a float value. So what should you do to distinguish this value as a float value or as a double value? You can append it with F for float value or with D for double value, either capital or small. Okay. For example, you can say 100.2 F. This will represent the value as a float value, as a small or capital, F capital or small, it's okay. And if you want to treat with the number as a double, append it with D, either capital or small. Okay. فهنا كيف نفرق أثناء تعريفنا للفاريبل زي ما قلنا بيفرق عندي في حجم البايتس اللي located إلى هذا الفاريبل. How many bytes will be located for your variable? It's basically will be based on which data types you define it for your variable. أي نوع أنت حددت للفاريبل حقك. فالفلوت بيعطي مساحة أكبر للتخزين، قيم أكثر للتخزين من الدبل. بس إذا ما حددت للديسيمال نمبر نوع معين باي ديفولت راح يتعامل معاه كأنه دبل. إذا حبيت تخليه كفلوت أبند تحط في الأخير كابيتال F أو small f. Double versus float. The double type values are more accurate than the float type values. بتعطيني الدبل بيعطيني accurate than the float. For example, 1.0 divided 3.0 will equal operation 1 divided by 3, it will give you 16 digits. هنا راح تعطيني 16 digits. Sorry, I said before the float give you more spaces than the double. No, I meant the opposite. A double will give you more spaces than the float. The float allow you only 8 digits for the decimal places, where the double allow you 16 digits for the decimal places. Okay. فالدبل give you more accurate value. Here, 1 float divided by 3 float equal to 0.3334 by the end as 7 digits. يعني في الأخير راح يقرب لك آخر قيمة. We have this arithmetic expression. How we could represent this arithmetic expression in Java. عندنا هذه الصيغة الرياضية. كيف ممكن نحولها إلى كود في الجافا. We should bear in mind the precedings operations and arithmetic operations. So multiplication and divisions come before sum with subtraction. The things, the expressions inside the parentheses will be executed before the outer of the parentheses. فبالنسبة إلى الأولوية والأسبقية في تنفيذ العمليات الرياضية اللي داخل الأقواس بيتنفذ أول، والضرب والقسمة بيتنفذوا قبل الجمع والطرح. بنشوفهم بعد شوية اللي هي ال precedings. To represent this in Java, you will take each decimal number, هذه الكسور, you will take it, we convert it to all these fractions. You will take each fraction separately and convert it to operations. Bear in mind the precedings of the operation. So division come before sum with subtraction. Okay, so we will take this first fraction and convert it to this one. 3 plus 4 multiply x. 3 plus 4 multiply x inside parentheses, because we need it to be executed before division على الخمسة اللي هي 5. You can also place here another parenthesis, it's okay. Minus 10 بعدين it's directly the parenthesis. This represents multiplication. هنا عندي عملية ضرب. إذا شفت الرقم وراه على طول قوس فهو ضرب. So you represent a direct number with the parenthesis with the multiplication here. Then y minus 5 multiplication. This is the multiplication because we have parentheses closed with parentheses open. This is also multiplication, ضرب. Plus, you will open the parentheses, a plus b plus c. This is the same. Then we have to divide the output, all this output on x, and this is divided by x. We convert the second fraction. Plus, we will move into the third fraction. 9, as it is, we put it down. Here we have multiplication. But then we have here these two fractions. It has to be executed all together. Then the output of these two summation of the fraction need to be multiplied on 9. So here you need to open a big parenthesis for the two fractions. 4 divided x plus you open the other parenthesis for this separate fraction. 9 plus x divided y. All the outputs needs to be multiplied on 9. Is it clear? This arithmetic expression, how to convert it in Java?
Yes, clear.
Clear,
Very
clear.
good. Very good. So here, how to evaluate an expression. The order of evaluating the different operations, we will have the multiplication, the division, the remainder executed first. Then we will have the addition and subtraction executed second. Then the last things will be the assignment, the evaluated last. This is about the precedence. And for sure, anything inside the parentheses will be executed first. So here, how to evaluate an expression. First, it will execute what's inside parentheses. So here 4 plus 3 will be executed first. 7 will be the result. Then it will look for multiplication and division. So here 4 multiply 4, the 2 operands between the multiplication will be executed first. So 4 multiply 4, 16 will be here. And all other operands will be moving down. So it will be 3 plus 16 plus 5 multiply 7 minus 1. يعني كل العوامل الباقية بتنزل زي ما هي. Then we have also another multiplication between the 5 and 7. The output is 35. So 35 will be placed there. And all the other operands will be moving down. كل العوامل الباقية بتنزل زي ما هي. 3 زائد 16 زائد 35 minus 1. Then we have the first summation between 16 and 3, which is 19. Then all the other operands will be moving down as it is. Then also we have a sum addition between 19 and 35 will be executed, which is equal to 54. Then the other operands will be moving down as it is. Then the final operation will be the subtract between the 54 minus 1, which is give me the output of 53. Now we will move in how we can read from the user. To read an input from the user, you need to define a class with the name scanner input equal new scanner system.n. So you need to define an object of a scanner class. It will be the same here, system.n. Then you can define a value of the integers as converting the values entered by the user to integer value. It will be in this way, input.next integer. So next integer will take the value entered by the user and convert it to integer's value. You can also say next byte to read an integer of the byte type. You can say next short, read an integer of short type, next integer to read an integer as integer type, next long, long type, next float, float type, next double as double type. So here, to accept an input from the user, you need to define an object. Here I call it input of scanner class. Scanner class already there في GDK. You just need to create an object of that class. Then you can define the data type of this input by defining a data type, a variable name, and converting the input from the user to the required data type. For example, here next integer, convert the input from the user as next integer and store it in the value variable. So to accept an input from the user, you need to declare an import in your header of the project. This will help you to locate a class that's already exists rather than creating it. It's already there. You just need to import it in your class and use it. Because the classes are grouped into packages or Java class library or the Java application programming interface, which is Java API. A package is a named group of related class. You can import it in your program and just use their methods, their identifiers. All import declarations must appear before the first class declaration. Placing an import declaration inside or after a class declaration is a syntax error. So here علشان نسمح لليوزر انه يدخل a variable نحتاج ان احنا نجيب السيستم كلاس عندنا بنجيبه عن طريق استخدام الامبورت keyword. الكلاسز في الجافا مرتب على شكل باكجز، فاحنا لما نحتاج نستخدم شيء معين من هذه الباكجز هي اوريدي موجوده، احنا كل اللي علينا ان احنا نكتبها باستخدام الامبورت ديكلاريشن. امبورت هذه الباكج في برنامجي. وين نحطها في البروجرام؟ we need to place it before we define our class، قبل ما نكتب التعريف حق الكلاس حقنا. system.out.print enter first integer is an output statement that directs the user to take a specific action. Okay, so here I have a message require me to type some value. This is the purpose of system class. It's a part of the package java.lang. So if you want the user to type some value as input, you have to import java.lang. هذه الباكج. Class system is not imported with an import declaration at the beginning of the program, but it's already inside this package. By default, the package java.lang is imported in every Java program, so you don't need to put it there because it's already there for any Java program. Don't require import declaration. So هذه الباكج ما نحتاج نسوي لها declaration import لأنها already موجودة في كل برامج الجافا. Reading from the user, if you need to read from the user, you need to use the scanner method and next integer. There is a method called next integer inside the scanner class. All you need to do is type input.next integer, which is calling the method of object that you already created, and assign it in one of your variable. Here obtains an integer from the user at the keyboard. Programs waits for the user to type the number and press the enter key to submit the number to the program. So when the user press enter, the value will be stored in this variable. Here, reading from the user. How we can read from the user? We have some typecasting or explicit conversion. Java evaluates only arithmetic expressions in which the operands type are identical. So if you have both operands are of the types integer, then it will execute it without no problem. If you have a floating point calculation with integer, then it will convert it to the floating point numbers. It will temporarily treat them as a floating point numbers. اثنينهم integer no problem. الاوتبوت بيصير integer. واحد floating والثاني integer راح يعاملهم على انهم floating point. The unary cast operator double creates a temporary floating point copy of its operand. So we have unary cast operator take only one variable or one value, which is double, and will treat with it as a floating point copy. The value will be stored in the operand is unchanged, ما تتغير. Cast operators are available for any type. We can do casting, like enhancing or not enhancing, like put it in upper class of its type. Casting to the wrong type may cause compilation or runtime error, but if you made it in wrong way, it will give you some errors either in compilation or in execution. Let us see an example. We have here a variable called number of integer data type. Then we did a casting integer to 72.8, which is a literal value. So what will happen here, 72.8 is a floating value. If I cast this value to integer, then we will lose the decimal value here, 0.8. So the output of the casting here, it will be the number 72. By the end, number will have the value 72. Cast operator associated from right to left. So it will be executed from right to left.
يعني convert إلى
نعم، هنا عندي القيمة فيها كسر، فيها عدد عشري، وقلت له حول لي هذه القيمة العشرية إلى انتجر، سوي لها كاستنج، يعني رقي الليفل حق هذه الفاليو من انتجر من فلوتنج الى انتجر، حول لي اياها. فبيضيع عندي الديسيمال بوينت هنا، الاوتبوت بيكون 72 فقط.
اوكي.
Reading from the user, we can use the method next line and next. Both of them will read from the user, obtain a string value from the user at the keyboard. But next line will read characters entered by the user, including space character, till a new line character is reached. يعني if you press on the new line, it will finish reading from the user. While next will read characters entered by the user till the space character is reached. اللي هي السبيس. النيو لاين اللي هي الانتر، والسبيس اللي هي السبيس بار. Then we have also next double. It will require a double value from the user. Character at, it will is a string method. Character at is a string method. You can access a specific character in your string. So character at will return the character at specific position in a string. To read a single character from the user, use the method next and then select the character at index 0 using character at. So here, for example, you have a string. You allow the user to type it by using a next method. Then you want a specific character, the first character of the string, you will call it by the method character at. Now, how we could display on the screen? We could display on the screen by using the method system.out.printf method. Method printf means formatted text. This means you can specify the format of the output with this message, display formatted data. Multiple method arguments are placed in a comma separated list. You can separate the argument with a comma. Method printf first argument is a formatted string, may consist of fixed text and formatted specifier. This means you can determine the argument, how it should be displayed on the screen. You can specify the format with a placeholder of the values and the type of the data of your output. How we could specify the format of our output is actually to begin it with the percent sign and are followed by a character that represents the data type. We will see it in example. So here, to format the output, we have system.out.printf. Format %s %d /n. Then comma, message, comma, sum. So here we will define in my message, take the variables of message variable and sum variable. Consider a message variable as a string, formatted as a string, and this is the %s formatted, then space, then %d. This is considered the second parameters, which is the sum, and represent the sum as a digit. Okay, as a digit. Then /n will represent actually a new line. So
Miss, digit or double?
Double, decimal integer, يعني it will be number.
Okay.
decimal integer. مش يعني هذيك لما انت قاعد تعرف الدبل، لما انت قاعد تعرف الفاريبل. الان هنا لا، هذه حق فورماتنج الاوتبوت. فابغى اقول له ان القيمه الثانيه اللي بتظهر هنا اظهرها كفورمات حق نمبرز اللي هي حق البارامترز الثاني. فالاول مخصوص حق البارامترز الاول اللي هي المسج. الثاني اللي هي percentage دي مخصوص حق البارامترز الثاني اللي هو السم. فالمسج بيتم تعاملها كسترينج والسم بيتم تعاملها كنمبر decimal number. Got it?
Yes.
Okay. We already reached 6 o'clock. It's fine if you have to go. I will carry on inshallah the session as we still يعني have some. A session already recorded, so it's fine if you feel you need to go. Inshallah, I will send you the recorded when you finish, when we finish. But I will carry on inshallah a session. اوكي فاحنا اوريدي خلصنا الكلاس يعني جت الساعه 6 فخلص وقت المحاضره بس انا باقي ما خلصت باقي لي شويه بخلصها ان شاء الله واذا انتم تبغوا تمشوا اتس اوكي برسل لكم التسجيل وممكن تكملوا من المحاضره الجزء اللي فاتكم. Here format specifier %s is a placeholder for string. يعني here at the beginning print the first variable as string. Format specifier %d as a placeholder for an integer value, either byte or short or integer or long. Letter D stands for decimal integer. يعني this one here need to be treated as number, decimal integer. System.out.printf average is %.2f /n average. This is a placeholder to treat the average as a floating point with 2 decimal places. يعني القيمة اطبع لي المسج هذه print my message as it is average is. Then this is the placeholder for the variables mentioned here after the comma. It will take the value in average and display it as a floating number with 2 decimal points. Then print a new line. So format specifier %f is a placeholder for floating point value, float and double, using round the number to exactly 2 decimal places. بيقرب لي القيمة الموجودة في average إلى خانتين عشريتين وبيعرضها لي كعدد عشري كعدد floating حقيقي. If you use the %c, it will be a placeholder for character. %b, a placeholder for boolean. A %n, it will be a representing for line separator. يعني print me a line separator here. But cannot be used with system.out.print or println, only with printf. Okay. Here in printf, in the format specifier %8s, here the integer 8 indicates that the value output should be displayed with a field width of 8. So here we are actually specifying the width of the field. That is printf display the value with at least 8 character position. So it will display it with 8 character position. If the value to be output is less than 8 character position, then the value will be placed on the most right side by default. If the value to be output were more characters than the field width, then it will extend it to be on the right hand side. To indicate that values should be output left justified, you have to put -8s. So this will be formatted with on the left side. Assume that we have the format specifier %20.2f. The comma formatted flag and will indicate the floating point style. Like if you have a lot of thousand, we will see an example. This is for separator for grouping number. like for example the country or the codes. For example, here it will be in this way: 1,000. It will be easy for reading. This can be read as 1,234.45. So this is the comma style. This is called the comma style. Okay. Here to read different types of information from the user. We have a class here called reading from user. We define an input with scanner object as a new input from the user. We define string, name, and the professions. We define double data type, hi. We define a character data type, gender. Then we start displaying a message to the user to start inputting the values. System.out.print, enter your name. طلبت من المستخدم يدخل اسم. So I'm expecting string. As a string, you will put next line and store the value inside the name variable. فعلشان أحول اللي دخل اليوزر إلى string بستخدم الميثود next line وأخزن الانبوت إلى string variable اللي أنا already define it as name variable of string data type. Then I'm asking the user to enter profession. Profession, you can also ask the user to enter a string with next method. Next line والnext both of them accept as string. الفرق هنا إن next line لما يضغط enter خلاص ال value will be stored. في next when he enters space the value will be stored. Then hi, I'm asking for number hi. You can ask for hi the decimal number with next double and store it inside one of the variables hi. Gender, enter your gender. M or F, one letter only, so it's a character. You will ask the user to enter a string, then you will access the first character of that string, male or female. If the user entered male, the first letter is M, access it at the position 0, store it in the gender variable. اليوزر راح يدخل إما M ولا F. في كل الأحوال دخل M ولا F أول كاركتر بوصل له وبخزنه في الجندر value. Character at, we already explained it, a method to access a specific character in a string. Println, write me this message as a separator. بعدين الformatting for the output. printf for formatting output. Placeholder for string, placeholder for string, one for the name, one for the profession, placeholder for a number, placeholder for the string. So after all this, you can find the comma and the relative variables. So the first string will be for the name. The second one will be for the profession. The third one will be for the hi. The fourth one will be for the gender. The here, okay, this will be for the gender. End of main method, end of the class. So here, enter your name. The user will put Adil Umar and press enter. Enter your profession. He type engineer, one word. Enter your high number, 1.87. Enter your gender, user entered M or F. Then the output will be in this format. Name عادل عمر, هذه string. بعدين profession engineer, هذه string. Profession here, هذه for the second one. بعدين high 1.87, هذه here. The floating number in 2 decimal point. Then the character. Then a new line. هذه ال N عبارة عن new line. So print the name, new line. Print the profession, new line. Print the high, new line. Print the gender, new line. Here is another example of a program. We'll read 2 integers from the user. So we define input integer number 1 and number 2 and sum. We'll calculate the sum of the two numbers and average also. Here we need to import java.util.scanner. Then here you define the input, scanner input, a new scanner, system.in. Then system.out.print, enter first integer, ask the user to enter his first number. Number 1 equal input, the next integer, convert the input to integer value. بعدين system.out.print, enter second integer, take the input from the user, convert it to number, and store it inside the number 2. Then normal operation. Sum equal number 1 plus number 2. For counting the average, converting or cascading sum divided by 2 to double and store it in the average. So we, whatever it was the value, because it's integer here, convert it to double and store it in the average double. Then start printing the output with the message sum is. Here print out that print formatting as string as a digit and a new line. Print me the message, print me the sum. Okay. So if we want to see more example, this is to compute an area of a circle, but we will ask the user to enter the number of the radius. If we look here, we define a scanner, input a new scanner. Then we print a message to the user to asking him for the radius, enter a number of radius. Then we define the radius variable, converting the input from the user to the radius variable as a double, and computing it with the formula radius multiply radius. Okay, so here compile and run. Let us see. It's already there. Enter input data from, enter a number for radius 3.15. Why we have prompt the user to enter a radius. It will ask for a radius, convert it, calculate it, and display it.
مس عادي تكتب اي نمبر مثلا 3.85.
هنا يعني هو already
أيوة.
محطوط. Okay, so here, for example, if I type 5, then I will press on compile, and it will show me here the area for the circle of radius 5 is 78.5. فهذه عبارة عن سكرين حقة الانبوت. Okay. All right. I don't know, where is it? Let's come back. All right, so we already finished this example. And this is also another example you can look at by yourself. So here we have a problem. We need to write a program that converts Fahrenheit degree to Celsius using the formula. We have arithmetic formula. And this is how we could type it in Java. So the formula for converting Celsius to Fahrenheit is 5 divided 9 multiply Fahrenheit's value minus 32. So I want you to look and work through these examples by yourself and see if you have any problem. Okay, by the next class, inshallah. Any question?
ايه بس بيكون في شو اسمه محاضرة عملي بكرة.
لا خلاص إن شاء الله، يعني I will try to cover كل ال practical session في نفس الوقت حق محاضرتنا، لأن هي مفروض تكون على نفس المسائل الموجودة هذه. فراح أعطي اللي أقدر عليه خلال وقت المحاضرة، والباقي أبغاكم أنتم تشتغلوا عليه. إذا في مشكلة في الكود بنشتغلها سوا.
لأنه حقت البرنت اف مرة ما فهمتها والله أكون صريح معك.
البرنت اف خلاص ان
أيوة.
شاء الله. البرنت اف معناها المحاضرة الجاية ان شاء الله راح نبدأ فيها.
اوكي
اوكي
تمام.
خلاص ان شاء الله على خير. any more question؟ yes يا آيات you can leave. yes I said already if you need to go you can go. Thank you very much for attending today class. I will send you the recorded inshallah. When I upload it I will send you the link. Thank you very much. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Have a nice day.